This week on the Computer Chronicles, cyber politics. We'll show you how campaign managers are using sophisticated database software to develop targeted direct mail campaigns. The web is loaded with political sites these days. We'll surf the most important ones. We'll see how the media is using the internet to change the way it reports on Campaign 96. And we'll see how political activists are using technology to influence politicians and government. Plus, campaign strategy software and how kids too young to vote get their voices heard. All this and Giles Online, this week's computer news, my pick of the week, all coming up next on the Computer Chronicles.
Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by SoftSource Incorporated, publishers of Pro One software, educational software for young adults. And by Upside, the business magazine for the technology elite.
Hi, and welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stewart Cheifet. It's rather obvious that television plays a huge role in politics these days. It's slightly less obvious, but computers, good hardware, good software, good use of the internet, are also playing an increasing role in American politics. And in some cases, computer technology can make the difference between winning and losing an election. Arthur, you're a consultant in this area, and in fact, it's your view that in the New Hampshire primary, for example, Pat Buchanan won that because he had a better database.
That's true, and also in Louisiana, because they were able to get their delegates to the polling stations, and in often cases, they didn't know where their polling stations were. So they were able to, whereas Graham and other candidates had their candidates traveling, delegates traveling 300, 400 miles in the wrong direction.
All right, this is the big deal now is the presidential election, and we've got Dole and Kemp, and we've got Clinton and Gore. They now have websites up there, right? So let's take a look at the presidential websites and give us your analysis of how they are.
Okay. Again, what I think they're trying to do here, it's a battle of the text, but they're really trying to get people to sign up. And here, first things first.
When you say sign up, you're saying these websites are not so much really to get people to vote for them, but to get action, to get volunteer support.
To get volunteer support and be ready for whatever action may be necessary in their part of the country.
So to get the Army going.
That's right. You're building a ground troops here. Here you can go to use Netscape on the Dole Camp page, which has been rated by Campaign and Elections magazine as one of the best political pages because of its neatness, its clarity, and so on. But here's right away, you can see that you get a form. You can customize your website, but at the same time that you're telling them what you would like to be told about, they're finding a great deal about you. That helps us with targeting. That helps us with so many other aspects.
Okay, so they're asking you, what do you want to know, but they're really gathering that information to figure out how to target direct mail to you, etc.
That's correct. Now, let's just take a look at one of the, they have to have the issues, the battle of the issues, battle of the text. And here, nice feature, they have it organized by state so that you can choose which state you want information on. And I've chosen Arkansas.
So if I were an Arkansas resident, I could go into Arkansas and see the Republican version of life under Clinton.
That's correct. And you have first the negativity here, all of Clinton's record, and they put this in terms of actual dollars costing an Arkansas family or an individual, how many jobs have actually been lost in Arkansas. So they have it very particularized.
So this is like negative TV ads. This is now negative websites, huh?
It's beginning. And I'll show you this. Let's go to the very colorful, and the graphics are excellent with Clinton Gore's homepage. Let's look at this. Oh, we have another U.S. of A.
So I can go to Arkansas and get the Democratic version of life.
Yeah, and that's very American too, if you notice. You know, the other one was a little red there, and here, everything that we saw in the other analysis is exactly the
same
opposite.
issues, only
more jobs, less taxes, everything. And they're going. This is the battle of the homepage.
So this is not where you want to go for information, huh? This is not objective stuff.
That's correct.
All right, what else can you tell us about Clinton Gore?
Now, they also have, I think, a nice feature, which is that they have all of the ways you can get involved on one page, and of course this branches out. The Dole Kemp page is really designed so that as you read each page, you can volunteer at the bottom of each page. I think this is a nice feature.
All right, real quick, bottom line, is this good or bad for the process?
It's going to be good, and it could be bad. The good is that we can now target more directly, and we can have more interactivity. And maybe one or two candidates will get through this mill, but they'll never be reelected.
Okay. Well, let's take a look now at one specific political campaign here in San Francisco and see how a piece of software called War Games is being used to develop the campaign strategy.
It happens almost every November, and it takes an army of dedicated volunteers to stuff and label envelopes, make telephone calls, distribute posters, and knock on doors, all in the name of one candidate or issue. It's the political campaign, and the newest tool to help win the vote is called voter targeting software.
Research is the basis of all campaign decisions. So we research voters and their behavior in the past, so we get an idea about what's going to happen in future elections. We do polling, which is also to a certain extent computer-driven, to find out what messages and issues people are interested in the upcoming election. And then we just do regular old elbow grease research by going door to door and calling people on the phone.
Campaign War Games is a strategy program from the Campaign Data Center. True to its name, War Games divides the electorate into categories, which campaign managers then try to divide and conquer. Identifying the most likely supporters can be the key to winning a campaign.
I think you can increasingly see the power of information in politics. At one time, politics was fairly gutsy. It was based on direct contact with voters. We now live in a society where there are 400,000 people in a state assembly district in California, where there are, literally 31 million people that you have to appeal to if you're running statewide. Those kind of numbers demand a different kind of technology. We really need to be able to communicate with voters by mail and by phone. You need to be able to, again, target those who are likely to vote, target those who are likely to be persuaded.
Campaign War Games will sift and sort voting groups and create a winning scenario for campaign managers as long as the original assumptions are valid. But the output depends on intelligent input, and that's where experience comes into play.
There's absolutely no substitute for good political judgment. And every campaign manager takes this research that they gather from different areas and makes calls, like a coach. You make calls about what plays you're going to use to win the election.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Giles Bateman.
Computer technology is being used to manage political campaigns for candidates, but it's also being used by political activists to influence the politicians once they get elected. And that's your particular interest, I guess, Graham, is using the web and the net really for grassroots, bottom-up politics, huh?
Exactly, Stewart. I think it's very important for people to understand that the web is not only a great source of information about politics, but it has great communications potential in the political process. You can gather people together on an issue, not just in your neighborhood or your state, but all across the country. And you really can have an impact if you know where to go and how to send information along.
That's the question I had. Where do you go to do the kind of thing you're talking about?
Well, for example, one of the best sites is something put up by Voters Telecommunications Watch. They are a group based in New York City, and they have been activists on the web for a long time, and they pioneered this technology of online petitions. And for example, here is an online petition that we'll call up from their website. They are protesting the administration's policy on the export of heavy-duty encryption, decoding technology. And if you agree with their position, what they'd like you to do is to sign their petition.
So they're soliciting my signature on this particular petition, which is a pretty efficient way to do it. You don't need 1,000 volunteers out there on street corners, right?
Exactly. You don't need to take out a pencil and stand in the rain.
Okay, but I can sign the petition virtually here by just filling in that form, huh?
Your email address, your street address, you press the button, and you're on the petition. Yeah. And it will be delivered to members of Congress who have something to...
All right, let's go to another site, which is interesting, too, called List, and if you can get us there and show what that does.
All right. That is a directory of email discussion groups, and the reason I think this is important is because close to 75% of the internet and people who are active on the internet don't have web access. A lot of people are using computers to communicate with other people about issues that are of importance, but they're using it through discussion groups and text-only basis. List will show you how to find some of those groups and how to get up-to-the-minute information about what's really going on.
So if you want to get involved in a group that cares about a particular issue, healthcare, whatever it is, you can get through them by using List.
Exactly, and this will help direct you to some of the groups that will give you some of the most up-to-date information about your issue.
Now, there's another good example on here. That's people who organize and use the web really just to focus on one particular candidate. And I know there's one up here called Fed Up, I think, which is all about trying to defeat Dick Gephardt, right?
Absolutely. He is the minority leader of the House of Representatives, and this is just a website that's been put up by people who think that he should no longer be in Congress. And the reason they're using this is that back in 1994, Speaker of the House Tom Foley was defeated.
Got defeated. It was a very rare thing for a sitting speaker to get defeated.
Exactly.
And that was partly because of the web.
Partly because of the web, because a group of people who did not want to see him return to the Congress got together, organized, and got money solely through the web.
So this could be powerful stuff. And presumably Dick Ephart has his own website, to be fair, I guess, in which he's trying to get elected.
Absolutely. And this website will, of course, show you how to get in touch with him. It'll show you his voting record, the kind of campaign funding he's had.
This really does make grassroots politics a lot more powerful than it was when you didn't have the bits to use. Huh?
Exactly.
Graham, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, well, this is the first national election year ever in which the Internet is, in fact, an important element of political coverage by the media. Media coverage is certainly an important element in how the voters perceive a candidate, and that's what you guys are involved in. You have something called Netizen, Ben, and show us what that is.
Yeah, Netizen is an online political site. What we do is have a couple of columnists as well as freelancers who will email us columns or special reports on various issues. And it's also a media criticism site, but it's specifically designed and written and produced for the web.
So it's an exclusively electronic piece of journalism. Is it focused primarily on politics?
Yeah, specifically
Okay, show
politics.
us some of the things that are in here.
Well, right now we have this 2-week-long Social Security forum going on where we have 5 experts who are discussing what we're going to do about the Social Security system, which is nearing bankruptcy, not too far down the road. We have them emailing their responses to a moderator's questions in, responding to readers' concerns about Social Security, as well as responding to one another's
So what's
arguments.
cool is this is really a new form of journalism. It's not just that it's on the web. It's not just one guy talking to the people, but it's the people talking to each other and back to the journalist, et cetera.
Exactly. The interactivity, especially on political issues, is crucial. For example, one of our columnists, John Katz, takes part in part of our site called Threads, which are basically discussion areas where people can post things that are of interest to them and other people respond. And John is very good at getting into the fray and duking it out with readers. And he has pretty much an ongoing relationship with a lot of these folks. They sort of know one another through the web. They bring up issues. They interact not only with John, but with other readers all over the country. And also, I think it's important to remember that the web is global. And so we're talking about people who are talking about global issues as well as just the election this year.
Let's look at a couple of other sites, and one is Politics Now, which also is kind of interesting in that it lets you sort of figure out what to do with your vote in a way, right?
Right. Yeah, we have, well, this is all politics actually, but we have candidate Radomedic, which is...
Okay, so this is the CNN website that deals with politics, and we've seen that promoted on the air. And so in this one, well, you can actually answer this quiz, and it says, well, this is the candidate who's going to do what you want?
Right. This is basically a means of finding the candidate that you want to elect president. It's obviously there are various degrees of sophistication on the web.
Right.
And this is kind of, you know...
That's a polite way to put it.
It's a fun website. They actually do. They have a very fine website overall. But this poll is sort of an interesting take on the notion of polling, because what you're doing is you're finding the candidate that you want to elect through the poll, rather than polling with your opinions in general.
Yeah, so let's go to that other site, if we can, Politics Now, which has yet a different take on kind of doing journalism online here.
Well, we have the Politics Now voter booth, which is basically another polling mechanism, but it's the traditional poll where you actually put your opinions in on a question of the day, pretty much.
But again, this is really journalism, right? I mean, this is put on the web by what, the Washington Post and ABC News?
Yeah,
and
there are major news organizations put this up, and they definitely take advantage of the medium. They do take advantage of the web as a medium for getting information out and for people to sort of grassroots network, as Graham was talking about. But they are also putting a lot of the stuff that they produce for other mediums onto the web. So I think they're trying to do both, and they do it well.
And it's also two-way. I mean, we see that rate the debates thing. So when the presidential debates are on, people can actually be on the website and sort of vote for who they thought was winning the debate right then and there.
This is actually an interesting piece. They can actually, in real time, discuss what's happening with the debates, and they can talk to other people who are actually logged on and talking about it.
So the net, the web, I mean, they're really fundamentally changing what the definition of political journalism is.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Well, the net may be a small part of politics now, but by the year 2000, today's 14-year-olds will be voting. So let's take a look at how young people in 1996 are using the net for political advocacy.
Visited by thousands.
Children Now is an advocacy group based in Sacramento, California. The national organization set up a web page in 1995 to expand their reach beyond mass mailings and telephone calls. The site offers current campaigns, issues that parents should be aware of, and a chance to respond and act.
we produce a lot of written products, a lot of analyses, a lot of information. That's the grist for our mill. The web is a natural home for us to distribute that, and a much more efficient one than trying to constantly figure out who should get this, who shouldn't get it. So that a lot of our activist work is more and more focused on the web.
The Children Now website invites members to respond with personal stories and to send letters and email to decision makers. This tactic was especially successful during the campaign for children's educational television.
Normally when you're doing a citizen action effort, the old-fashioned way where you mail or you do phone calls or you do postcards, you hope people take the action, but a lot of people are just going to do their best to get the letter out. They're not going to bother to put a second letter in the mail and tell you, look at the letter I sent. Whereas on the net, people just have to push a button to tell us they sent it. So we know, we got an instant feedback loop that we know that several hundred people wrote the FCC.
Other organizations alerted by the web campaign joined the effort, producing tens of thousands of letters and email messages. It's an example of how the web can streamline a grassroots campaign.
All sorts of synergy is occurring that, if it had only been up to us and postage and the mailbox, never would have occurred. Because we can't possibly disseminate enough of our materials to enough places to make those synapses occur. The internet and the web makes it happen in ways that escalates the odds significantly that we're going to have those kinds of connections.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Giles Bateman.
There are three major components to today's electronic political landscape. There are the candidates, there are the voters, and there is the government, the elected officials. So let's turn now to government information on the World Wide Web and how you can use it to find out what the government is doing. And I guess that's your territory. You guys have put together this site called VoteSmart, which is just full of just about anything you'd want to know about what Congress is doing, what the executive branch is doing, what's going on out there. Give us a kind of guided tour to VoteSmart, Lorena.
You bet. This is an outgrowth of our 800 number. We have a toll-free voters research hotline, and we've put the information that we have available through that on the web, in addition to linking to political sites all over the internet. So if you go to our site right here, VoteSmart Web, you're going to start off with, first of all, that 800 number, and then you're going to see... Which
means it's not, there's a human being somewhere. If you get stuck and can't find one, you can actually call and say, help me, right?
Call us, talk to one of our college interns who are whizzes at this, and they will tell you where to go to get the information that you're looking for.
Okay, so what do you have here?
Well, we start off with speeches. It's a presidential year. Everyone is interested in what the candidates are saying, so you can get that kind of information. Since it's an election year, people want to know where candidates stand on the issues. We do an issues questionnaire. We do it on the presidential level, congressional, gubernatorial, and legislative, and all that information is available here. People can download the candidates' responses to an issues questionnaire. So
candidates would have answered a questionnaire you guys put together, and if I want to see what they said about this particular issue, I go to my state, I look up the candidates.
That's right, and we send it to all candidates on the general election ballot, so you can do a heads-up comparison between candidates of all parties.
And how many tend to answer your questionnaire?
Well, let's see. In 1994, we had about 64% of all the candidates returning the questionnaire, and that's increasing this year, so I'm not sure what the number is, but I know it's a lot. But people also want information not just on candidates, but on elected officials and on the government system in general. So they can go further down on our site and get information about the executive branch, about members of Congress. They can get information about on the state level, you know, connect to Secretary of State's offices, governor's offices, etc. They can access information on political campaigns, get information that deals with particular issues.
Can we drill down on one of these just to see what goes on here?
Well, let me pop us back up to here, and what we'll do is we'll go over and look at some of the information we provide on elected officials.
Okay.
This is Senator Hatfield. He's a senior senator from my state, Oregon. You can connect to his worldwide web page. You can find out how he's voted on issues. You can find out how special interest organizations review his voting record. You can get information on where he receives his funding.
So you not only have your website, but you have hot links to lots of other sources out there on the web. So you're kind of one-stop shopping to get all this government information here.
Right.
So you could start at VoteSmart, and then that'll take you where you got to go?
Anywhere. All of the information that we have on this screen, except for his website, is information that we've put together. But you can go to many different sites, and let's kind of take a look at some of those.
Yeah, let's go to Thomas. That's another interesting site that people should be aware of, and show that to us.
That's one of my favorites. Okay, let's press the wrong
Thomas
button
as
there.
in Jefferson, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Here we are. This is a site that's put together by the Library of Congress, and what it does is it gives you a tremendous amount of information about the United States government's legislative branch. You can find out what's going on in Congress. You can download the text of bills. You can go over and connect to committees and find out what's going on there. And you can get a tremendous amount of information about everything that's going on the congressional branch.
So Thomas is really if you want legislative type information.
Right, exactly.
A little bit of time left. One thing really cool that you can get to from your site is the Census Bureau, where you can really dig out lots of detail. Show us
That's right.
that.
You can, from our site, you can go to many different government agencies and departments. One of those is the Department of the Census, where you can find all sorts of information, ranging from birth dates to all sorts of things that have to do with commerce. I like voting and registration.
Yeah.
And find out how many people voted in 94.
So it's a great research tool if you really want to be an informed voter in general.
That's right.
Thanks very much, Lorena.
Thank you.
All right, well, we've shown you quite a few political websites so far, but let's turn now to our webmaster, Giles Bateman, for a look at some other sites that can help you be a good citizen.
Thanks, Stuart. One of the more responsible things you can do as a good citizen is to take the time to write your political leaders and voice your concerns. Now, in order to find the email addresses of your senator, you're going to want to go to the Senate homepage here and click on Senators with Constituent Email Addresses. And what that'll do is that'll give you a list of all the senators with constituent email addresses. Now, if your senator does not have an email address, I suggest sending him some snail mail and telling him to get on the stick. Now, you can also write your representative. If you go to the House of Representatives page, you can scroll down, find who's who and how to contact them. A number of the representatives have email addresses as well. Another great government resource online is the Library of Congress. This has a lot of great graphics and a lot of good information, but if you've got a slow connection, as with most searching, I recommend using the text-only version. It makes for much quicker searching over a slow modem. Now, last but not least, if you think the national debt's nothing to worry about, you might want to check out the U.S. National Debt Clock. This updates every minute. I'll hit reload so you can see those numbers change. And not only does it tell you what the United States owes, but it also tells you what your individual share of it is. In this case, only $19,642.24 apiece. Well, we can handle that. Now, before we go, I'd like to mention two books that you might want to check out. Electronic Democracy by Graham Brown on today's show is a great way to find out about doing politics online. And then last but not least, we've got the Vote Smart Web Yellow Pages. The subtitle of this book, One-Stop Shopping for Political Information, is a real understatement. This is chock full of great websites, all the political websites you could hope to find.
Thanks, Giles. Time now for our weekly summary of the latest Internet and PC news. Here's this week's Random Access Report with Lori Anderson.
In the Random Access file this week, 2 online services are remaking themselves on the Internet. You can now reach Prodigy directly through the web. The company will offer live chat discussion groups, mail, and its news service for $19.95 a month. And Microsoft is soon launching a web-based Microsoft network. MSN will feature news, entertainment, email, search functions, as well as an essentials section for purchases. The web-based Microsoft network will go live on November 1st. A Silicon Valley startup company called Exponential Technology says it will ship a microprocessor that runs Macintosh software at up to 533 megahertz. The X704 microprocessor will cost $1,000 each and is designed for high-end computers used by graphic and multimedia designers. Apple Computer announced a new line of PowerBook computers for release in November. The new PowerBook 1400 line will feature built-in CD-ROM drives and bigger screens. Playing networked games will soon take on a new twist. Diamond Multimedia has introduced a combination speaker phone fax modem to allow you to talk to your opponents while playing modem games. Called the Supra Express 336 SP, the internal modem for Windows is available now for less than $150. An external as well as a Mac model will be available in mid-November. The Internet is proving to provide some useful information in this presidential election year. Nearly a third of those logging on to the web these days are using it to get political information. A new poll by Lewis Harris and Associates shows that 8 million people are going online for news on politics. However, the poll found that TV, radio, and newspapers are still the preeminent source of political news. That's it for this week's Random Access. We'll send it back to you, Stuart.
Now for my pick of the week. A CD-ROM drive has become an essential for any computer these days, but if you're a big laptop user, it hasn't been real easy to get access to a CD-ROM drive. You either have to lug around an external CD-ROM drive with the power cord and the connector cable, or you can buy a new laptop with a built-in CD-ROM drive, but you pay a price, no built-in floppy disk. And that can often be a pain as you have to juggle between using either the CD-ROM drive or the floppy drive. Well, I have found one very clever new notebook computer that has somehow found a way to squeeze both a CD-ROM drive and a floppy drive into one normal-sized laptop. This is the Orion from Nimantics. Now, I don't know how they did it, but it has a CD-ROM drive over here, a floppy disk drive over here. It has two PCMCIA slots, a hard drive, of course, a battery slot. Somehow it all fits together, and this is so much easier to use than all the others. Now, this Nimantics Orion has a 133 megahertz Pentium, a 2 gigabyte hard drive, 16 megs of RAM, a 6X CD-ROM, built-in stereo speakers, a big active matrix SVGA display. It even comes with a built-in joystick, and it has game buttons over here. It is quite a nice little package from a company no one has heard of, but I like it a lot, and the price is under $3,500. It is the Orion from Nimantics. That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. We'll be back here again next week with more of the best in computers, CD-ROM software, and the Internet. I'm Stewart Cheifet. We'll see you here next time.
Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by SoftSource Incorporated, publishers of Pro One software, educational software for young adults. And by Upside, the business magazine for the technology elite. Videotape copies of all Computer Chronicle shows are available for $32.50. Please order by show number and topic. And for more detailed information about the series, guests, and products featured, you can also order a subscription to the Cheifet Letter. In each issue, Stewart provides his unique insights and thoughts about the fast-changing world of personal technology. Videotapes and the Cheifet Letter can be ordered by calling 1-800-800-9520 or by writing us at the Computer Chronicles. For more information on anything you've seen on today's program, check out our website at www.pctv.com.